Hello Final Fantasy fans and welcome back to another video. Today I want to talk to you about a really quick recap of this past weekend at the Ifrit Summoner Series and of course the 1K that ARG held the next day. Now one of the biggest things I heard about from the Florida community was that they had no clue who ARG was prior to this event, which is a little bit funny to me because I've been down there for previous Force Will games. They go down there every year, sometimes twice a year for nationals, stuff like that. So they get a good crowd, and that's why I wanted to include this photo as well. This is what the Saturday crowd for the event looked like. There was over 500 players. I think it was actually near 600 players on Saturday, and on Sunday they had around 200 to 300 players that were in the hall. But they get a lot of players for various games. Now that's Dragon Ball Super in the front. They had Yu-Gi-Oh going on the same day. They had Force Will. They had Final Fantasy, and we were kind of tucked away there in the back, but you can see those banners still hanging out there. And this is kind of one of the main reasons why I wanted to push for this at the ARG Circuit Series. It's basically free advertising for the game, and they were well stocked on singles as well. So with ARG, a lot of their events for their games have chances to win store credit. Sometimes they do cash prizing, but most often for this weekend it was store credit. And they had singles in the booth. They had all the starter decks. They had all the booster boxes. So ARG is all about supporting this game if we show up to their events. So I would love to see double the number. We had around 30 both days for Final Fantasy events. I'd love to see double in Vegas. So that's going to be really important to see how many people we can get. And at the time of recording this video, so it's the 19th of December, we're still finalizing what the prize support is going to be. There's been a little bit of a snag, I guess I will say, in kind of the playmats and the design and arts. There's a lot of stuff that happens in the background, but at a bare minimum, there will be 2 1K events in Vegas. So no matter what, if you're watching this, if you're worried about Vegas, if you want to play in 2 1K events, Saturday and Sunday back to back, absolutely come on out and have a great time. We're hopefully going to get some more promos. We're going to have foils for top 8 for both days. I'm going to try to see if we can get some other Square Enix, branded stuff for top 8 on either day. It's a bit in the works, but that was kind of what the overall presence was. The community was very receptive to it. I've talked to some other players who were, they didn't know what Final Fantasy was as they were walking past the banner. So I think overall it was a success for people having fun at the event and for players who were kind of checking it out for the first time and seeing what it was all about. What I really want to do is take a moment and talk about some of the bigger decks that came out of the event, or ones that I think you should keep an eye on. Now, based on what we've seen, that was in Wales for the event that they had, in some other areas, the SoCal and NorCal regions. Wind Lightning is really something that we should take a look at more closely, and the different builds of it varied greatly. Some people were playing Big Lulu like myself. Some people opted out of it like Perry did here in his list. He was all about Maria and these more value backups. Otherwise, just making sure your guys are bigger, but still having, the Onion Knight, the Al Cids to play. And Archangel was absolutely a beating that I had to deal with in our top 4 match. But the one card I will say that he's not playing that I am a huge fan of, and I promise you it's not just because it is a Moogle, but the 4-drop Wind Moogle I think is insane for this list. Because you have things like Barb, or you have things like Cactar, or you have Cyclops, it is a 4 that your opponent doesn't often want to block because you're going to net a card out of it anyways if it dies, but chances are there's very easy, if not free, ways that you can trade up to their bigger targets. And just having those Cactars on board can be really annoying for your opponent. I will say kind of the MVP for my weekend with this list was being able to Cactar away 3 Delita, or sorry, it was 2 Delita. I forgot what the third option was that I was able to get rid of it, but being able to deal 10k damage is something that I think Wind absolutely wanted, kind of as we talked about in our set review, and I think will find a place as this meta continues to evolve. Now, is Wind Lightning here to stay long term? I certainly hope so. I've said quite a few times, and I said it way back in whenever our deck spotlight video was, not for the most recent one, but one before that in Opus 2 meta, that it's one of my favorite combinations that doesn't get a lot of love. I think this was completely absent in Opus 3 meta, maybe a top 1 event if I remember correctly, and it did pretty well in Opus 2 out of Italy, but it's very early on. There was a lot of Wind Lightning. I think there's probably 5 or 6 total that topped between all the events. I wasn't sure about SoCal and NorCal. I'd have to look over those lists again. I only glanced at them, unfortunately, but I think with Onion Knight and some of the other tools that it's gained, and it's really about finding which forwards you want to be using and which summons and monsters, of course, but there's a lot of room and flexibility for this deck, and that's what I really like about it. He placed first at the 1K event that we had. And then another one that I think that was not really getting a lot of love, and it is An interesting pick, I will say, if you're expecting a heavy Wind Lightning meta, maybe not play it because it features a lot of low-cost forwards, but Jared was the second place finisher for the 1K, and I think surprised a lot of people with his more straight aggressive, your stuff is going to come in dulled type of mono ice deck. Now, of course, it's going to have things like the new Shiva. It has Zalera for all the value as well. But with the new Sarah, it's very easy to get something to dull and freeze. You know, when it attacks, you can force your opponent to discard. We have the new Sid that can create a tax type of effect for your opponent. So it really is very difficult for your opponent to have a lot of active forwards in this case. Now, if they have Astrologian or if they have Oracle, you know, there's certain ways that you can have backups that activate them, you know, the rest of your characters or just forwards in the case of Astro. But it's hard when there's so many effects. And then you have things like Mecha Chocobo that, you know, you can't let that hit you. It's a card that's going to start picking away your board, and things like Renault, of course, is going to help be able to dull your opponent's field and get in for points of damage. So you get to build up these, you know, lower cost, efficient, perhaps a little bit underpowered forwards, and then you get to put a Renault on the board. When they're already at 3 or 4 damage, you can just swing with Renault every turn and say, hey, if this blocks and dies, you're going to take the guaranteed 3 to 4 more damage, you know, aside from EX burst and what have you. So mono ice, I really like. We've seen a very heavy discard focused build. We've seen this one, which is more just absolute aggro. It does play Babas as well, which is nice. So we could play, change out a few like the lower cost like Snow and Sarah and just go for a full, you know, dull your stuff down and make your opponent suffer that way. So mono ice is finally coming to the spotlight, and I think Shiva really does help it a lot. That it was something that was played in the previous meta, but I think the couple of the tools that it gained, you know, I don't think it's still, I don't believe rather it's not the best element, but it's certainly something that I would love to play for mono decks, because everyone's enjoying lightning and water right now, which we can agree are the two biggest elements that we have to consider. But, you know, take a break for a little bit, check out what ice has to offer. The last deck I want to talk about is mono water. Now this one really didn't gain a lot outside of the very, you know, key one here is Light Terra. Guardian was good by herself. We're playing a bunch of summons, so why not have a card that's a decent sized body, has a great special, and can find us the summons that we want. It's really important to note here that with Riot Blade into Veil 4, because we are playing the heroic unit backup, which is really important, you can Riot Blade, find the Veil 4, play the Veil 4, kill, you know, 9,000 damage one of their forwards, recover your backups, play something else, you know, if it's Cyclops and a bike or something. There's a lot of crazy turns that you can have with this deck. Now, because of that, I do think it plays a little bit more like a combo deck in that sense, that you want to be able to make sure you have your Veil 4 and unit turns ready. But that's something that we've seen previously from Wind Water decks anyways, so it's maybe, you know, a little bit less on the forward count because we have to play 13, 14. Some decks are even playing 15 summons. But when you have those early points of damage and you're really just trying to clear the board, you're going to have only maybe 3, 4 if you're lucky forwards on the field. But when you get, you know, the Riot Blade into Veil 4 into Cyclops turns, you're probably winning on the spot. And it was really hard to get that all to kind of happen together previously. But again, with Terra being able to get any summon that we're either missing or a key turn, it really pulls the whole deck together. So I think there's a lot more room to build with Terra, but if I wanted to play a Terra deck today and just really want to play 3 even in something that's not ice, this is absolutely the list that I would start with. So I think it's worth checking out. Again, mono water is kind of getting all the rage. There was the water monsters build, there was the mono water summons in this case, and then of course people were kind of splashing these other elements here and there, but overall mono water, Cognazo, all that great stuff that we've seen in the previous format is here to stay. And, you know, maybe it'll get pushed out towards the end, who knows. We have a lot of time and a lot more events to go between now and the end of the meta. So with that, that was our quick Ifrit recap, and I want to encourage you guys, if you can make it out, it would mean the world to us to make it to Vegas. That's the January 6th weekend, and of course for everyone that was down in Florida who came out to the event, it was great meeting you, and thank you so much for showing both ARG and really us, you know, indirectly the support as well. Hopefully we can do more mats like that in the future, but again, that one's kind of a little bit on the fence for now. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to drop us a like down below. That helps us out a ton by getting the word out there. Comment down which one of these 3 decks is your favorite, and of course subscribe for future Final Fantasy trading card game content. So on behalf of myself and the rest of Six Sages Gaming, we'll catch you on the next video. Have a good one. This video made possible thanks to our Patreon supporters. Thank you to our honorary sages.